Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my guest today, Mr. Chris Massenburg and John Lawton of Open Air Advisors. Welcome back to the program, gentlemen.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you for asking, John. What about you guys?
Great to be back.
Great to be back.
Yeah, great to be back.
Are you excited? Are you pumped to get ready to change some lives today, right?
Absolutely.
That's the goal. We want to make retirement better for the people of Dallas, don't we? Okay, so let's start off with this. Tell me, John, what are the three most common mistakes that you see people make in retirement?
Sure. We sit down with people every day, and there's a couple of things that we see that's pretty common whenever they're sitting down with us. And the first one is not having a clear budget. You would be surprised how many people come into the office and have no idea really what they're spending. And if there's anybody out there and they're getting close to retirement, I'll tell you, if go interview some of the retirees that maybe are friends or are family members, they know what their budget is. Why do they know that? Because they're living on a fixed income at this point.
Right.
When we're working, income can go up, you can work a little harder, all those different things. But the folks that are retired, they have a clear idea of what their budget is. But if you're close to retirement, look at your budget and what it is today. And really, that's what you're spending, right? And that's what's actually going out of your account on a month-to-month basis. But look at that budget, look for ways that you can trim it, but also look at what it's going to look like in retirement. There may be some bills, maybe we're not driving to work every day. Maybe we don't need that toll tag, or that we're not eating lunch out every day because we're not going to the office. So that budget might look a little different today than it would look like in retirement. Another thing that we see a lot is, I would say, scattered assets, or just kind of assets all over the place.
Okay.
You worked over here for this company, you left that company, they had a 401k, we're over here, and everybody, gone are the days that somebody works at one company for their entire lives.
Yes.
One retirement plan. People switch jobs often, and so we see a lot of folks with plans kind of all over the place. What's really interesting is there overlap? Are those plans coordinated?
Yeah.
Is this plan buying the same thing that this plan is?
Right.
And so just kind of the last thing to finish that thought, not having a coordinated plan. Not having a coordinated plan to either consolidate the assets so you can see exactly the level of risk, the income that you can expect from those assets, but coordinated a plan is basically the last thing we see that folks are challenged with going into retirement. So that's what we see, and that's where we're here to help. We work in the Dallas market, and we love helping people get that budget put together, coordinate those assets, consolidate those different assets, and then build a plan that's, number one, going to give you the appropriate amount of risk, give you the appropriate amount of return, and do it all tax efficiently while giving you an income that you can expect to live through in retirement.
Yeah.
Also coordinate that with your Social Security and all the other aspects of the plan. That's what we do every day. That's what we're excited to do for anyone that's out there today. So
you guys have the resolution to the problem. And we talk about that a lot, because a lot of folks will say, well, Paul, it sounds like, there's a focus on the fear, or there's a focus on the problem. No, not really. The reality is, when something's not right? You have an understanding something's off. But you can't quite get to a problem solution of a problem until you've identified the problem, the issue. To your point, you got to understand the budget side of this before you can give an income solution, right?
that's exactly right.
You have to know how much it's going to take, right?
Yeah, and if I could just add to that,
Please.
One thing, when we sit down and we go through this process of building out a budget and expenses, it's never going to be perfect.
No.
And it's got to be flexible. And what I tell all of my clients that I work with, and when we talk about retiring, finally hitting that magic point where we're going to retire, I say, hey, let's build a budget. 6 months, let's reevaluate, because I bet it's a lot different than you think it's going to be.
Good point, Chris, because it's changing, right?
To John's point, you're going to have expenses come off, and they come back on, and then you're going to figure out the stuff you really want to do in retirement that's a lot of fun. And maybe we want to budget more for that, like travel and all the fun stuff, visiting family. So we want to reevaluate that, and we want that stuff to be as flexible as possible.
Right, and I would imagine there's probably different phases to that too, guys. So I would imagine when the first couple of years of retirement, when they're young and healthy, right, they're probably going to do more, travel more, right?
Yeah, I always joke with people and say the first 10 years, you're going to go all over, and after that, you're going to be going to make everybody come to you, right?
Right.
That's right.
right.
The first 10 years, those are great years. Mm-hmm. We have our health. You're doing well. Use that time to really get out there and do the travel. But kind of going back to what Chris said, we take the place of the guide. Financial planning is not a one-time event. It's a process, and it's something that we go back and we revisit, whether it's the assets or the budget or the tax planning. Things are changing all the time. Yeah. Look at this market. Look at what's happened over the last 12 months. Look at what happened over the last 2 years. My goodness.
Absolutely.
So financial planning is always changing. Taxes are always changing. And so here again, if financial planning was a one-time event, things change all the time. So having that plan reevaluated as those changes come up, because we're going to adjust the plan, we're going to adjust all aspects of the plan as we go through that retirement process.
Yeah, it's almost like your health, right? You can't just go to the gym one time and be fit forever.
That's a good point, Chris.
You've got to keep working on it, right? And different sides of it, maybe it's a diet, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's cardio. You got to keep working on that over time. Same thing with the plan. It needs to be flexible, adjustable, so that it fits your lifestyle, because I don't know about you, but things I really loved to do 5 years ago, maybe I'm not as into now as I was 5 years ago.
Sure.
So that stuff changes too. So you want to make sure you build all that in and work with a professional that can help you make those adjustments along the way.
To that point, so let me ask you this. So for the audience out there, how often should folks do that? How often should they meet with their advisors, right, and their planners to figure these things out? I mean, is it a frequency of, let's say, is that as often as monthly? Is it a once a year? Is there a sweet spot for folks to be in a habit of reviewing this, Chris?
I think that's a really great question, because I think ultimately it's different for everyone, almost on an as-needed basis. But I think there are minimum checkpoints.
Okay.
A yearly thing is minimum. I like 6 months as a minimum, but I do have some clients that, hey, we've set a plan, we want to just check it every year. And then there's other times or situations where we might need to adjust that monthly, quarterly in the beginning, and then let it breathe a little bit, and then we can adjust it quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. So I wish I could give you a direct answer on that, but it really does depend per person.
So that's good, and I think that's what folks want to know. So depending on their lifestyle, depending on what they do, depending on how much their assets are, right, and how much their life is changing, right? Because folks are different in retirement. Some are more active than others, right? And so they may want to do it more frequently. They may change their mind more frequently, right, Chris?
Yeah, and spending, what are their spending habits? That plays a big role.
That's a good point.
If you've got a whole bunch of assets and you're not spending very much money, well, you don't need to adjust that income and level of expense very often.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest and most important thing to you is that asset allocation and that risk management side. That's what we want to focus on for that individual client.
So I understand today you guys have a wonderful offer for the viewers out there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right? What is that offer? Why should they be calling you today?
Right. We do what's called the Clear Path Retirement Guide.
Okay.
In that guide, we're going to do exactly what we've talked about. We're going to go through the assets that you have, learn about your level of risk, learn about your return. And basically what we're going to do is build a plan around you. That's putting together a Social Security plan so you know exactly when to take Social Security to make sure that you're getting every dollar out of Social Security. We're going to build an income plan so that we're building you an income plan that is going to be there for you in retirement. And we do that for everyone at no cost, and we'd love to see everybody today. Call the number today, 844-333-6059, and let's get started on that plan today.
And again, that's a complimentary review, folks. I've seen firms charge upwards of $1,500 for these types of consultations because there's a significant amount of time, resources into you to find out what is your goal, what is the dream of retirement. You have to determine that. This centers around you. You've invested time to get to where you are. You got to just go a little further and invest the time to pick up the phone and call. 844-333-6059. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my special guest today, Mr. John Lawton and Chris Massenburg of Open Air Advisors. Listen, guys, you know, lots of things going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a lot of growth, right? Tremendous amounts of growth. And that's a good thing. And, you know, one of the things I'm thinking about with growth, believe it or not, is this concept of the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
What is that, Chris?
Yeah, so we hear this term a lot nowadays, this Great Resignation.
Yeah.
What it's really referring to is that there's a lot of Americans out there that over the past year and a half have considered retirement. So one of the more recent studies that came out said over 4 million Americans were considering retirement.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this working from home, and then we've gotten to a certain point,
right.
maybe we're fed up with work, or we don't like the environment we're having to work back into. So that's maybe causing a lot of folks to think harder about retirement, right?
Maybe COVID's taught us the value of time.
Absolutely. I think
maybe folks are really seeing that.
I think that's a valid point.
And that's
Absolutely.
a wonderful thing.
Yeah, 'cause can we spend more time with loved ones, right? Maybe that time is more valuable and precious than we thought.
Absolutely.
So going back to a lot of what we're doing in this process is really going through some of the things we were talking about on the last segment, where we talk about how do we get ready for retirement.
Yeah.
You know, and John made some great points about having a budget in place and kind of examining that cash flow, right? And sometimes budget is not so much fun of a word, right?
Sure.
It's kind of a dirty word.
Sure.
I know when I say that word at my house, my wife does not get excited about a budget, right?
Who does? I don't get excited about budgets either. It means they had golf last, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
You scratch that off, that's a hobby, right?
Yeah, no, right.
That's a need, not a want, right?
Wait, you can't tell me I golf too much. What do you mean?
So, but what you really want to do, you want to go through and examine that budget, and then really just line out what's need, what's want, and then where do we want that to be when we get to this retirement phase. And obviously, if that outflow is a lot bigger than the inflow, we want to trim some fat where we can, okay? And then that'll give you a really good idea, getting prepared for retirement, what steps you need to start taking when it comes to cash flow. And then the next thing is you want to make sure that you increase emergency savings. This is one I think that gets overlooked a lot.
Yes.
You want to make sure that you have 6 to 12 months of savings set aside in the event that something happens. Say you lose your job or your company shuts down, for example. You want to have all of that money set aside for emergency purposes so that you can have that cash to leverage to make a better decision for yourself. Or maybe it's just a matter of I want to find a different job, something that's more fulfilling in my life. So if you have that money set aside, it gives you the ability to make those kinds of choices and decisions. And the easiest way to do that, I always tell folks, easiest way to save any money for retirement or emergency savings or whatever you're saving for is to make it automatic. You want to have that savings set up so automatically it goes in every month, every week, as often as you can. And that's really one of the benefits of the 401k plan that a lot of people participate into, is that money comes right out of your paycheck, goes into this 401k plan before you ever get your grubby hands on it, right? Because sometimes if it comes into that account, it's really easy to spend without even thinking about it, right?
Yep.
So you want it to be automatic, go to that account so you can save for your future. And then obviously, so your company can match if they offer that. You want to take advantage of that free money, we call it.
Good point, yeah.
Don't leave anything on the table. If they match 3%, get all that 3% you can. And then put away whatever you can, but just make it automatic.
Yeah. You know, I got to ask you, how often, guys, do you see that? To the 401k plan, you're talking about this, the contribution and the match. How often do you see folks, to John's point, they're changing careers all over the place? Multiple different times, going different directions. Do you find that people leave 401ks behind? And to me, that would be like a dormant asset because you can't really contribute anymore. You're definitely not getting any match, right?
No, and it's really interesting. I had somebody in the office the other day, and we're getting very close to retirement. We're probably about 5 years out. And just going through the inventory and taking inventory of all those different statements and all those different 401ks. There was about 6 different 401ks that he was having to go back and find statements for all these different types, all these accounts from years and years of working. Part of it was the company name changed, or the 401k, they stopped using this provider, so they went on to the next one.
Yes.
And for the last 30 years, he's done nothing. So those investment accounts that he's had this entire time, he made those decisions when he was in his 20s.
Wow.
And now we're in our 60s.
They sat that long.
They sat that long, and I think that it's really interesting. You could take it just like, say golf, right? If we're in our 20s, we're using that driver. We're in the tee box, right?
Right.
And so we're trying to smash. We're trying to get every bit of return out of that account. When we get closer to retirement, we're not going to use that big driver anymore, right?
No.
We're going to start maybe using a chip and wedge, or maybe it's a putter, but it's definitely a different club. It's a different type of account that's going to get us into retirement than there is for that one when we're 20 years old. So with this individual, we did an evaluation of every single one of those accounts, and would you guess, some of those accounts from 30 years ago, they were taking a little too much risk.
Really?
And so part of the process, and last March, did you even see the down and the up? And those accounts have done well. But when we really are truly trying to make a plan, because things are getting real for them now. Because the reality of him turning off his paycheck and living off his retirement savings, coupled with Social Security, is a real fact that's going to be happening to that family in the next 5 years. So having another misstep or taking a big mistake or having a big loss is something that's going to change their retirement lifestyle. And that's just something that they don't want to go through. So evaluating those accounts, looking at the level of risk, building a plan, and using the appropriate level of risk that's going to make that plan work for that family is exactly what we did.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that too, the benefit of a 401k is you can make it automatic. Right, you save automatically.
Yeah.
The company matches automatically, hopefully, right? The downside is that no professional is managing that money for you.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
You as the individual are picking those investments. And to John's point, if you pick those investments 20, 30, 40 years ago,
right,
are they still right for you today? And nobody's there to tell you that, right? So you don't want to take too much risk at the wrong time.
That's a good point.
Right? And then one of the other things I see folks, going back to this great resignation and getting prepared for this, one of the things I see folks do when they get to retirement is maybe taking on new debt, right? This is a big no-no. All right, we don't want to do this. Obviously, going into retirement, you want to try to eliminate debt as much as possible, because we all want to save as much as possible, and then you want to get as much income as possible. But you can also reduce your expenses, and that's the same thing as increasing your income in some scenarios, right? So don't go out and buy brand new motorhomes right before you retire without talking to a professional. You don't want to saddle yourself with that kind of debt going into retirement. Just make sure it's the right thing to do for you at the right time.
Yeah, and for all my folks out there that don't like doing budgets, I get it. But to John's point and to Chris's point, guess what? On a budget, here's what's great about it. Here's the plus sides to this, right? Think about all the things you'll discover about your spending. Maybe you'll end up finding out something like you got 2 gym memberships, the one you should have canceled or meant to cancel 2 years ago that kept deducting. And to Chris's point, when you figure that out because you've done your budget, you just got to pay raise. Right? Everything you cut out of that, you've got an increase, which means more golf for me. I don't know about you. So, right?
Paul, if you budgeted for golf, you get to go play golf.
That's right.
The budgets are going to be fun. We're going to add all those things that are great that you want to do in retirement. This is not going to be this will be a fun event. We're going to find all those things about you that make you tick, that make you have a great retirement. That's our goal.
I think you figured out my hotspot.
There you go.
But listen, folks, let's share with the good people of Dallas what you're offering today, Chris, if they reach out and call you guys.
Yeah. So for everyone who calls, we're offering a clear path retirement plan. It's complimentary. So what's in this plan, or what we include in this plan, is we're going to take a look at your portfolio. We're going to tell you if you're taking on too much risk at the wrong time. We're going to help you examine that budget to make sure that you're prepared for retirement. Make sure that inflow and outflow is the way you want it. And then if we need to trim some fat, or if we need to cut out some expenses, we're going to kind of help you talk through that. The next thing we're going to do is give you that evaluation of the 401k plans, or old 401ks, IRAs, make sure that all those are on track. And then we're going to look at Social Security planning as well. How do we get every dollar out of that, maximize it, not just get every dollar, but make sure it's the right for you and it's the most tax efficient time to take it. So we're going to do that for everyone who comes in and wants to get this Clear Path retirement plan, no cost or obligation. The phone number to call is 844-333-6059.
It's good stuff. And again, it's complimentary. Folks, and it's about buying back your time. Through this pandemic, we figured out that time is incredibly valuable. It's not renewable. We want you to have all 24 hours of your day back. That's what allotting for a financial plan will do. Right now, if you're at work, you know you only got 16 hours. It's simple math because you're working an 8-hour day, right? The goal is to get all 24 of them back so you can go where you want, when you want, and spend as much time as you want. Be on your time. But it doesn't happen without you taking action. That's what causes change, you. 844-333-6059. Give these guys a call. Let them get to know you and what your dreams are. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Retire with Clarity. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my guest today, John Lawton and Chris Massenburg of Open Air Advisors. And, we were talking a little bit in the break about why tax planning is so important. And listen, like most folks, we spend 20, 30 years kind of in autopilot on tax preparation year end, right? You get in that W-2, you take it into your accountant, they do your tax preparation, right? You fill out your returns. You maybe get a refund, you maybe have to pay. But why is it so important for us to really start changing our frame of mind when we get closer to retirement?
No, I think that's a really good point, and I'd like to make a distinction really quickly because we're not CPAs.
Okay.
And really what you're talking about there is tax preparation. Mm-hmm. What we do is tax planning. Okay. So tax preparation is really what you're doing, April of every year, and basically what it is a scorecard of what you did, right? And it's backwards looking. What we're doing and with planning is we're looking forward. And we're helping that person make the decisions, helping you in DFW make the decisions going forward so that you're paying less taxes on your retirement income. And there's a couple of things, with taxes right now. We're in we'll say an artificially low tax rate environment. We know if changes don't happen, tax rates are going up in 2025. And so we have this opportunity right now, and that's a lot of the planning that we do. Whether tax rates go up or not, I don't have a crystal ball, Paul. Things can happen. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is when we do sit down with our clients, when we do sit down with prospects, and when we sit down with people from the show, we sit down with people from this show every single day, bringing in their statements, looking at the overall plan. You pay different tax rates through different parts of your life. Your income hasn't been stagnant through your life, and in retirement, it's going to be different. We were talking about 401ks earlier, and I think one of the things that's really interesting is a lot of folks thought whenever they started saving for retirement, they started putting money into that traditional 401k, and they've done a wonderful job, and they've saved a ton of money in retirement, and the thought that their income is going to go down in retirement is really not true. Mm-hmm. In fact, it might stay the same, or it might, everybody's different, right? And so when we look at that up and down, when we're paying less, or when we have a lower income, that's when we want to pay more in taxes. When tax rates are down, we obviously want to pay less, we want to pay more of our taxes during that time period, because we want to look at your lifetime and lower the lifetime tax bill of your retirement. And that's part of that income planning that we do. That's part of that Clear Path Retirement Guide, is analyzing your individual situation, analyzing the taxes through the year. In fact, some of the times, we had somebody in the office the other day, and we were going line by line, year by year. And the interesting part of their plan was they're retired based on the distributions from their 401k, which are basically, they're going to be taking distributions from their 401k. When they turn 72 in 2 years, the distributions are actually going to go up because of their required minimum distribution. It's actually going to make them have to take out more money than they really want to take from their 401k. The interesting part is that number and that percentage continues to go up through their retirement life because that required minimum distribution is going up. What happens at about 77 for these folks is it actually puts them in a higher tax bracket than they are already in today, when they're expecting to be, when in retirement we're supposed to be making less income, right?
Yeah,
our income tax base is supposed to be lower.
Lower.
For these folks, that's not going to happen, and they're forced to take that money out. There's no control because it's required, and so some of the planning that we do through Roth conversions and that tax planning puts the control back in gives the control back to you. So you decide whenever you're paying those taxes to make sure, again, that the lifetime tax bill is the lowest that we can get it, that plan is working for you, and making sure, the income is going to be there when you want it to be, and that you're paying the least amount of taxes that you have over your lifetime.
Right.
So,
believe it or not, gentlemen, we've come to the end of the show. So would you remind the good people of the Dallas-Fort Worth area what you're offering today?
that's right. Today we're offering the people of DFW the Clear Path Retirement Guide. In that guide, we're going to go through your budget, your 401ks, your accounts. We're going to put a plan together that's going to look at all aspects of your retirement plan, which is Social Security, income. We're going to make sure you get every dollar out so that you're maximizing the amount of income tax efficiently that you can do. Call the number today, 844-333-6059, and we'd be glad to put that report together for you.
And again, it's a complimentary review. Take advantage of that. There's only so many spots available. Claim your spot today. Be the change that you want to see in your financial future. 844-333-6059. We want to thank you for being with us. Be well and enjoy your retirement.